Good morning, students. I am Nikivanas and Shooting. Welcome to our class, second quarter, week 7. Today, we will be discussing about North American Literature 1. We have here the learning objectives. Identify representative texts and authors from North Africa. And then, compare and contrast the various 21st century literary genres and their elements, structures, and traditions from across the globe. During its early history, America was a series of British colonies to what is now known as the United States. Thus, the literary tradition of the country can be connected to the British literary tradition. However, the modern-day American writing is completely separated from the earlier traditions because of its diverse nature and the breadth of its production. The earlier American writings include Captain John Smith, A True Relations of Virginia, which discusses the advantages of colonial rule to both the colonist and the colonist audience. Political writing like the authors of Samuel Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Paine are hailed for its wit and its contribution to building a nation that is today. Furthermore, the political writing of Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay, and Thomas Jefferson influenced their very constitution. The list of influential American writers will go on and include Washington Irving, with his work Sam Malakundi, A History of New York by Derek Knickerbocker, The Legend of the Sleepy Hollow, and Rip Van Winkle, to name a few. James Fenimore Cooper and his classic The Last of the Mohicans, and then Edgar Allan Poe, who is considered the father of short stories, wrote The Raven, The Curse of Amontillado, The Falls of the House of Usher, and a lot of more other seminal works. Herman Melville's Moby Dick, the Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter comprise the dark romanticism subgenre. To continue the shortage of celebrated American writers, you also have to take note of the works of Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson, who are honored as two of the greatest century poets, the proponents of realism. Mark Twain and Henry James should be remembered for their writing style changed the way American writes their language. The two writers created characters who speak like real people and sounds distinctly American with accents native to their region. At the beginning of the 20th century, American novelists started experimenting in style and in subject matter. Writers like Edward Bellamy upon Sinclair and Henry Adams discussed political and educational issues and the power of corporations in their works. American writers also expressed their disillusionment following upon the war. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby, which shows how the dreams and ambitions of the youth may quickly disappear and ultimately lead to disappointment. There were still many other influential American writers who were not mentioned here. Therefore, we could say that history of American literature is very rich in content and traditions and definitely shaped the writing style of contemporary writers. American literature at the turn of the 21st century has become democratic and heterogeneous. Regionalism has flowered and international or global writers reflect U.S. culture through foreign perspective. Creative nonfiction and memoir have flourished. The short story genre has gained luster and the short story has not taken root. A new generation of playwrights continues the American tradition of exploring current social issues on stage. American writer Zane Collins is the author of the best-selling and Hunger Games series as the Underland Chronicles. Collins recalled the Hunger Games trilogy was born while she was watching television late one night. Flipping through the channels, Collins was suddenly struck by the lack of distinction between reality TV and coverage of the Iraq War. For Collins, The Hunger Games and her other books touched on the very subject, necessary and unnecessary wars that her own father often discussed with her. Now, plot refers to the series of the events that occur in this story. The plot is the underlying pattern of this story that gives it unity and order. In traditional narrative, the plot can be broken down into the following elements. The introduction of the characters and situations. Inciting incident, the main conflict is introduced. Rising action, the chain of events that build from the conflict. Then climax, the moment of crisis in which the outcome will be determined. Following action, the problems are solved, and for resolution, the main conflict is answered, and then the denouement, the outcome of the conclusion or unraveling of the entangled of the conflict. And then theme. It refers to the general point that the story attempts to make. The theme is not merely limited to the fictional reality of the characters' lives, but often comments upon the reality of our own existence as well. The theme is described as the significant truth about the life and human nature reflected in action, preoccupations, and decisions of the characters. Settings refers to the time and location in which the story takes place. These two elements together create the entire social and environmental context of the story. That would be all. Any questions, clarifications, additions? If you don't have any questions, please proceed to your learning path at www.gaitf.com to answer your activity. Thank you and God bless.